Welcome to episode 20 of the Retro Gaming Dads podcast, the weekly podcast for everything retro and retro inspired. I'm Barry, and tonight I'm joined by Phil and Anthony. Say hi, guys.
Hello.
Hi there.
Since this is our 20th official episode, we're going to celebrate 20 years of the original Xbox with, very original, this idea, 20 top Xbox games. I just don't know where all these creative juices come from sometimes.
Me either.
We just roll with the punches. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I don't even know where we managed to just pluck this number from the air from, you know.
No. It's as if there was a reason behind it.
As if once we did actually plan it.
So this episode, we're going to talk about the first 10 of our collective top 20 favourite Xbox titles. Now, before anyone starts complaining about the order of them, these are completely unordered and are just the games that either we think were the best use of the Xbox's power, or personally just are the games we associate the most with the Xbox.
Some of them were just brilliant games.
Yeah.
Yes. A lot of overlap between the two, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, there definitely is. Putting this list together, though, it definitely made me remember just how many great games were available on the original Xbox.
It was hard not to remember. Yeah, I think because the Xbox was that leap into the next generation, and there was so many games that were then starting to really define different genres into it, it really sank in with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Of that generation of consoles, the leap from the 5th gen was just outstanding. I remember seeing the Dreamcast originally and being blown away just how much of a leap it was over the Sega Saturn, the PlayStation, and the N64. And then along comes the Xbox, and even compared to the PlayStation 2 and the GameCube, it was just an absolute monster.
I know. That, and it literally had a warning.
And I'm not talking about because it looked like a coffee table, it was that big.
Absolutely, it actually had a warning on the controllers that...
Yeah, the warning for the controllers.
Yeah.
Do not drop on children.
May cause death.
The really big fat ones that actually, break your foot.
No, do you remember they had the breakaway cable?
Yeah.
So you plug it into the Xbox, and if you yanked it, break away.
It would just, yeah.
In the manual for the I can't remember if it was for the controllers themselves
I think it was the controllers.
Or the Xbox. It said, do not put the Xbox on something high up and make sure you use the breakaway cables, because if you pull it off, and it just showed like this little black and white picture of like an Xbox falling on this little kid like getting crushed.
I never saw that. That is amazing to hear.
Yeah, it was dangerous for small
They
children
were
and
heavy,
animals.
though.
Oh, yeah. Lethal.
Absolutely.
But, Microsoft stepping into the console area and coming across was a really, I enjoyed it, and it's really made a massive benefit to the gaming industry, I feel.
Yeah,
Considering
absolutely.
it was the first entry for Microsoft into the home console space, really, it was quite the entry.
On their own, yes.
Yeah, on their own, obviously, yeah, because they did partner with Sega for the Dreamcast.
Yes.
It made a hell of a splash.
And for many, like for me, I was a Sega kid. Once there was no Sega consoles, I was like a refugee looking for somewhere to call home. And Microsoft was there, arms wide open, going, come to us.
Come and join me.
We want your money.
I started on the PlayStation, and I really enjoyed the PlayStation. And then the Xbox came out, and my dad got the Xbox, brought it home, and goes, hey guys, check this out. And, gets us out, and we start playing like mind blown, just completely into this new console has just been brought in and dropped on our laps. It was fantastic.
Well, this was the first generation where I actually had all 3 consoles.
Okay.
I didn't realise you had the GameCube.
Yeah, I had a GameCube, yeah.
Well, actually, this generation, obviously, I had the Sega Dreamcast. I actually got the GameCube. I was like, Microsoft, nah, no thanks. I'm going to jump ship to Nintendo. And I remember we went round to some guys, and he's like, oh yeah, I've only got one game, Halo. And we're like, oh, all right, what is it? He's like, oh yeah, it's like this shooter, you're like this spaceman running around. You're like, yeah, let's have a go. And me and Phil played it, and we were like, whoa, And we literally got the bus back to the local town centre, went into game and went, do you have an Xbox? Yes. Do you have Halo? Yes. Can I have that and another control pad? I'm like, yeah, we've got these official control pads. No, whatever your cheapest one, don't worry, it's for Phil.
Yes, back in the day, I was
Yeah.
Anthony.
Ooh. Already starts with a shade, thank you very much.
No, in all fairness, I've seen what Phil does to my control pads. There is no way I am ever letting him use one of my good control pads.
You're just jealous.
Even nowadays, when you come round, it's like, Phil, did you bring a control pad? No, I forgot it. Can I just use one of yours? You've got like 22 of them. No, Phil, no, you can't.
You're just jealous because I could do the Super Deadly Ninja Bees.
But like you were saying about Halo, and I know we'll talk about Halo later on, that was...
Hey, it might not be in our top 20, you don't know.
Might
the
not
one
be.
game that really sort of blew me away. Other than the few that we're going to speak about, I think we've got a really good selection here between ourselves.
Yes.
Which obviously, we've picked amongst ourselves, and like there's no order at all, but it's just ones that we felt were defining to us for the Xbox.
Yes.
And I think it's a good way to lean on to our first game.
Yeah, so in no particular order. And first game, Max Payne.
I mean, it started off with him standing on top of a building like a proper detective entry. I mean, it's got to start with Max Payne, surely.
Didn't it start with a flashback of his wife and his baby getting killed?
Yeah, pretty much. No, it starts off with him standing on a building with a proper him narrating his own story about how his wife and child have been killed and how he's going to find the murderers.
So was it one of those like dark and grippy games?
Yeah, in one of those typical gravelly voice. As I hunt down whoever did this to me.
That's all I could think
100%.
when he was describing it.
I'm Batman.
That, and it had some of the creepiest scenes I can remember in gaming history, where you are literally following your baby's entrails through dreamscapes with babies crying in the background. It's like, what the hell?
I think someone had been watching Train Spotting or something then.
Probably.
Oddly enough as well, it was also the best Matrix game that was out on that generation.
It's very true. Bullet time was a thing that was used a lot in that generation.
No, I remember a few games having the bullet time.
This was definitely the best use of it, though.
Oh, yeah.
Was it?
Yeah. Did you ever play the Matrix game just out of curiosity?
I played the Matrix game, but there was a different game that I played that had the most use out of it. It was on the 360, so it doesn't matter about that.
Right.
Bullet time was a very trippy thing, I felt, when you were using those games. Because, it's very... You're running in, bullets flying, freeze time, shoot them all, and then carry on running. You're like...
Well, Max Payne didn't really...
No, what do you mean running? It doesn't work unless you're like jumping sideways through like a glass pane or something.
Yeah, you had to be diving sideways with both pistols, shooting at the enemies as time slows down.
That's the one. Or managing to shotgun 5 people in midair before you hit the ground.
But yeah, it is... Although it was released on other consoles, Max Payne, I do think, is one of the ones that... I do think of the original Xbox when I think of Max Payne. From Max Payne, we go on to... I personally think the defensive version of this game, but others may disagree, and that's Ninja Gaiden Black.
Ninja Gaiden was a fantastic game. I absolutely loved it. It was, again, a game which came out of nowhere, and you're there, flying around as a ninja on the Xbox, and it was a very fast-paced, quite often at times, don't know about you, Phil, button mashing as well, just trying to get your combos off to kill the enemies.
No, I use very optimized combos because I like to optimize the fun out of games.
Did you run around just throwing daggers and stuff, different things at enemies as well? Being like, stuff you...
I juggled. Most of the time, I just juggled enemies.
Yes.
But brilliant game, but it did not pull punches.
No, not at all.
No, well, I actually didn't play an awful lot of this. I remember playing it at yours, and I going along, slicing and dicing through all these ninjas, feeling like, a bit of a badass. And then this guy comes out. I'm like, he's got nunchucks. What's he going to do? Oh my God. I could not hit him.
Yeah, He's not even the first boss.
Wrecked me.
He's not even the first boss. He is the tutorial.
I thought that was... No, it's not tutorial.
It's the tutorial.
It's not.
Genuinely, here's
It
the
is,
tutorial.
because that's the first. It's
Part 7 a tutorial. This is how you die.
Yeah,
yeah,
he
'cause
is.
isn't
He
the
teaches you how to do the combat.
first weapon you pick up other than your sword. I'm sure it is, and you pick up at the end of the tutorial.
It might be. I thought you started off with your sword.
I thought you did start with the sword.
Yeah, you start off with your
Yeah,
sword.
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, other than the sword, the nunchucks is
right.
the next weapon you get.
Yeah, I think so.
But I like the weapon selection in the game as well. It's quite interesting, some of the weapons, but to me, it was either the sword or the nunchucks.
Yeah, I used the sword. The sword was broken in that game. It was brilliant. But yeah, Ninja Gaiden Black. I mean, Tecmo and Team Ninja, they've always made very, very smooth games. And Ninja Gaiden's no difference.
Yeah, I did play quite a bit of Ninja Gaiden 2 on the 360.
Yeah.
The first one came on the Xbox. I do remember seeing it and thinking, this is the next generation.
Yeah.
It's not just what the PlayStation 1 looked like, but sharper and, without that weird texture warping. It's like this almost looks like a CG animation.
Yeah.
It's starting to get that good.
It was a very pretty game.
That and also, it's the dude out of Dead or Alive.
Fair enough, I'll give you that one. But you saying that about the graphics, Barry, it's quite funny thinking back to, we thought back then, this is it. Pinnacle graphics is fantastic. And now you look back at it.
Well, oddly enough, I remember talking to Phil playing, just going, no, I'll save it for later.
Okay.
But going from 2 ultra-violent games to 1 where you kill people in the dark. Splinter Cell, Chaos Theory.
Oh, this was... Obviously, it wasn't the first Splinter Cell on the original Xbox.
No.
But definitely
Which in
pinnacle.
itself is an actual classic.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I'd say this is the pinnacle of the Splinter Cells from... Perhaps even still. It was such a good entry into the genre.
Yeah.
Is this the first one that had Xbox Live on it? That had online?
Did Pandora Tomorrow?
I can't remember if I had Xbox Live or if it was local multiplayer only, but I do remember we played a lot of Chaos Theory online.
I remember playing this one so much.
I think it had local split screen for the co-op mode.
Yeah.
But did it not have the Spies vs. Mercenary multiplayer?
It might have.
It did. This Chaos Theory did, because I remember playing that.
Yeah.
And I just remember the fear, because you couldn't kill the mercenaries easily.
Yes, you had to stun them and disorientate them, didn't you?
Yeah, I think you could drop on the head, or did that just stun them still?
I do think you could kill them, but it was very difficult. If they spotted you and you couldn't hide immediately, you were dead. But I like the way the gameplay was different between the two.
Yes. Oh, it's completely different. And just seeing that torch looking around, and you're there going, please see me, please see me. And he sees you, you're like, shoot. You try to leg it out of the way and get away from that, and that's it, you're gone.
I remember, again, with you, Phil, playing the co-op mode, and we were like synchronizing, like yanking people out of windows, letting them fall on the head with satisfying crunch.
We'd almost got military precision with our 3, 2, 1, go, take them out.
Yeah. Yank them through the window, climb up, shoot the lights out as the guys come in and they can't see anything. Go up behind them, break the necks.
This probably says more about how much we played it, to be fair.
Yeah.
How you were saying the other two are violent games.
Well, yeah, a lot of the Xbox was a bit more of a mature console, weren't it?
Yeah. It definitely was.
So, moving on to that, something a bit more kid friendly.
Oh, it definitely.
Conker's Bad Fur Day Live and Reloaded.
Yeah, such a lovely, fluffy game.
Yeah, this adorable little squirrel on his adventure to find his way home.
Yeah.
After getting faced at the pub.
Walking around with, machine guns and any other weapon he can get his hands on.
Your introduction to this game, Anthony, was only a couple of weeks ago, weren't it, when we showing you the Great Mighty Pooh? And you're like, what is this?
I mean, that song was utter.
You decided to record my reaction. I was like, what have I just watched? And then you watched me the Matrix video and cutscene.
I was showing that the other day.
I'm like, What?
Unfortunately, though, this was actually censored over the Nintendo 64 version.
Really? That's a surprise.
Yeah, Nintendo 64 didn't censor the swearing, whereas the Xbox One did.
Huh.
That is a surprise, isn't it? Nintendo. Well, evidently,
Yeah.
Nintendo does what Xbox don't. Does it really work that way
I
around?
don't think it doesn't quite work that way.
Just-
I think
as
it only
you know,
worked because of the
Nintendo's-
Sega does what Nintendo don't.
Yeah. Graphically, it was amazing looking game as well. Easily one of the best on the system.
Was looking boss though. But
You're just reusing all your jokes from the last episode we talked about this.
Just pathetic.
yeah, I am, and I'm unashamed about it.
We're ashamed for you.
That's fine. I'll accept that.
Well, we're ashamed of him.
But no, it looked like a great game, and it is one that I will say I'm kind of sad I missed, but at the same time, due to my age for when this console came out, I'm not surprised I didn't play it.
Didn't they remaster it relatively recently?
I
sure.
have a feeling it may have come to backwards compatibility as part of the Rare Replay.
Oh yeah, of course it's in Rare Replay. That's what I'm thinking.
So, follow on from Conkers, which is a very rather mature one. Let's go to one that a lot more people may be aware of, is Star Wars Battlefront 2. Now, obviously, Star Wars is a massive sort of franchise, and to me, Battlefront 2 really made the Xbox for me. The massive open war, against either side, and I think it was like 30 odd people you could have at once.
Yeah, Battlefront was a really interesting. It was a brilliant game, Battlefront 2, and the newer Battlefronts have tried to keep the spirit of it, but I don't think they've quite managed it as well.
No.
But with the surprise mechanics. But it was a brilliant third-person shooter,
It really was.
apart from when you used Jedi's, because then it wasn't really a shooter.
No, you just went around and just wrecked everyone. But to me, I think one of the things I enjoyed the most in Star Wars Battlefront 2 is the use of vehicles you could have.
Yeah.
And the way they were just on the map, you can get in, just use them. That's one thing that the newer ones haven't done. You have to get enough points and then fly off in it. So I didn't enjoy as much. And the newer ones have done well, but to me, they don't hold a torch to the original Battlefront and Battlefront 2.
Yeah, I can agree with that. As good, it is a good game though. Still, it is definitely deserving of a spot on the memorable Xbox games.
Yeah, and it's because it's maybe if it even wasn't Star Wars, if it was a different sort of
I don't think it would have done as well. Genuinely don't.
No.
Yeah, I think the reason it's fondly remembered is because of the IP it was part of attracted people to it, and the fact that it was actually a fun and enjoyable game as well.
Yeah, that, and I don't think in any other IP, even a separate IP, could you be as someone as memorable as Darth Vader going around strangling rebel scum to death.
No, not in the slightest. But yeah, it's one of my most favourite games that I played in the original Xbox. But saying that, I remember the first time I played Star Wars Battlefront was on a demo disc that came when I got the trilogy of 4, 5, and 6. It came with a demo disc in box 6.
That's quite cool.
So you actually put the DVD into the Xbox, and it actually then played the demo.
That is pretty cool.
It was pretty cool.
Moving on from the very memorable game that was Battlefront, we've got another Star Wars game, Republic Commando.
Now, Republic Commando, to me, again, was one of those games which was absolutely fantastic because, you played as a clone trooper, not as any Star Wars characters at all, and there was no Jedi's at all you could play as. You just stuck as a Republic Commando.
Well, I don't think there was any Jedi's or Sith in it at all, was there?
Not that I can recall, no. And it was quite a cool squad game, I think.
Yeah. This is one of those rare Star Wars games that could actually work with not being Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, they've actually also recently remastered the game as well.
They remastered it. I thought it just came back onto backwards compatibility.
No, they remastered it for the Switch.
Oh, of course they did.
The Switch and they got a remastered version of it, and it looks fantastic. And it's one I'd like to pick up again. But that's one game, again, where I spent hours and hours and hours playing that, and that also had an online function as well. So fighting against
that was fun.
Other commandos as well was one that really gripped me into it.
Yeah, it was another sort of arena shooter type game that were quite popular back then. It was a fun online experience, Republic Commando.
It really was. But then I think for the first I'm going to go on to one that's a bit different for us would be Burnout.
I mean, I would say there's less killing in this one, but some of those wrecks.
No, definitely people die
It's a
in that
different
game.
form of killing, shall we say.
It weren't me that killed them. It was just that articulated lorry that smashed into them head on at 60 miles an hour.
Yeah, I think Burnout 2 in particular, for me and Barry, was a game we played a lot of, and whenever we play certain songs, we just think Burnout 2.
Cardigan's my favourite game. Burnout!
Yeah. Deftones, there was a Deftones one in there, I'm sure of it.
Yeah, I think there was. But
there
actually,
was Buck Rogers from Feeder.
That's something that we haven't actually touched on, and that the original Xbox did so well that no other console, certainly none that I'm aware of, has managed. Custom soundtracks.
Well, kind of. I remember, I think it was Ridge Racer. Once the game had loaded, you could open the PlayStation and put in a CD.
No, that does not count.
Doesn't it?
And V-Rally definitely did that.
Yeah, V-Rally did that as well, didn't it?
Why would you want to replace Ridge Racer's music? Anyway, the Xbox, you could chuck in your CDs. If you're not sure what they are, ask your parents. And you could actually rip your songs onto the hard drive of the Xbox. And then actually integrate it into many games, Burnout being the big one. Like the one we used to hammer was Burnout 2, Points of Impact Learner.
Yeah, we played that a lot.
And it just worked really well. You could play your own music on the Xbox 360, but it just kind of played it over the game. It didn't really integrate it. Like on the Xbox, it'd pick your track and it'd fade in as the track starts up, and as it finishes, it'd fade out as well, rather than just like playing in the background.
Forza did something similar.
Yeah, they did with
Groove, Microsoft Groove.
Zoom Music, was it? Oh, was it Groove?
It was Groove
I don't
Music.
know. They rebranded it so many times.
And then they shuttered it.
Yeah.
So
I actually was thinking of paying for that. I was like, oh, this is really good in Horizon 3.
I did.
And then he went, oh, yeah, it's shutting down next month. I was like, oh, what's the point then?
I did. I paid for it.
Oh, right.
No, that's one feature that I remember using on the original Xbox was copying the songs onto the Xbox. Because I remember using it as a music player. Well, it let you do it.
No, but it was definitely a unique feature of the Xbox, weren't it? But yeah, Burnout 2 and Burnout 3. I'm not sure which was my favourite. Burnout 3 was more refined and graphically looked a lot better. However, at the speed you're traveling, I found it was a little bit too cluttered because there was so much detail in the environment.
Yeah, I kind of definitely felt Burnout 3, I struggled sometimes to recognise oncoming traffic, more so than in 2.
Everything, as you're going so fast, everything's blurring as you're going past, and you kind of like starting to lose focus of what's going on, and you're there going, that's a wall, I've hit it.
It's not just the blur and the speed, it's the amount of detail. It looks so cluttered. I remember it taking my brain like just a fraction of a second longer to resolve what was flying past and towards me. Whereas Burnout 2, don't get me wrong, the graphics were still amazing. I remember looking at it and go, look at the road! As the sun shines off the road and reflects back up at you. I was like, it's amazing! I think the simpler looking graphics really did help as you were skidding around corners and somehow narrowly going between two buses or something.
And getting those extra burnout points for doing it.
Oh, yeah. As long as you survive.
Wasn't there also a game mode also for trying to cause as much wrecking damage as you can do?
I think that was Burnout 3. It definitely wasn't in Burnout 2. I can't remember if it was Burnout 3 or Burnout Revenge.
So you're there flying down and just hitting this wall of vehicles and seeing how many you can blow up and how much destruction you can make.
And you always had that thing where you could blow up your car and steer it towards another group of vehicles.
And it was just the amount of chaos that game brought.
Yeah.
But the fun it brought with it as well.
I always remember that. Great fun as you go, yeah, I've got the bonus points. I took out that school bus full of children. Yay!
The memories. Why have all our games involving killing somehow
Well.
in this list?
Oh no. In all fairness, I think we actually eventually grew to be somewhat well-adjusted people.
Debatable.
I don't know if anyone believes that.
Hearing us speak sometimes, I kind of think, I'm sure they think, what's going on here?
It's very true.
Yeah. Completely different to our previous games. Our next one is Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
Now, this is one that, again, I played to death. And I played with my brother because it was local two-player co-op. And you would just run around on these massive open fields, doing completely different objectives, and just killing all enemies that are there.
See, this is one of those where I know it got rated really highly, but for the same sort of problems I had with the likes of Dynasty Warriors, I struggled to get into it.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. It is, like you said, very much like Dynasty Warriors, because it is just, you've just got your X and Y to combo to do the attacks. I quite enjoyed playing as the different characters. For me, Legolas is the one I always went. When you upgraded with the Mythril arrows and you basically became unstoppable from a range, just shooting all the enemies. And my brother used to run off as Aragorn. Because in this, it had a horde mode at the very end of the game, where you could literally just fight on this floor, and it was just endless. Because you could complete it, I think it was like 20 different levels. But it got so hard. But I remember a lot of people that I grew up with also playing this game, and also saying it's one of their favourite sort of style of games
loads
to
of
play.
people that played it, and the Dynasty Warriors, that particular style of game, is still popular to this day with games like Hyrule Warriors, other spin-offs like the Gundam one they did, the Samurai Warriors stuff. It's still a popular style of game.
Yeah.
So I've not actually played this title. Does it play like Dynasty Warriors?
Very similar.
Yeah, it's similar, except from there's no open map to go around all these different routes.
Yeah,
It's literally just a stage
it's more linear.
You work through completed objectives. A lot more linear, like Phil said.
Anything like Gauntlet?
No, not quite. Think linear Dynasty Warriors, and you're not far wrong.
Okay. It's not my sort of game, so... Well, sorry, not my sort of setting.
Yeah, it's more the genre for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're not a huge fan of high fantasy.
No, but to me, again, it's just... This was one of those games that just fitted well when I was playing the Xbox. I had fond memories of playing this game. And so, it's one of those games that really sinks into the Xbox for me and really makes it for me.
Well, can we move on to the next game? Because the next one's a bit of like a hidden gem that not many people know about.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think anyone will have heard of this one.
No, it's quite an obscure title. A little game called Halo Combat Evolved.
Now, people are going to be wondering why this is in the lower of our top 20.
Yeah, so this isn't any sort of ordered list. Halo Combat Evolved, as we alluded to earlier, this was the reason that me and Phil went out and bought an Xbox.
It's
on the day that we first played Halo, we got bus straight into town and bought an Xbox.
It was a brilliant game.
Yes. I don't know how this passed me by, to be honest. I actually knew of the game because I remember hearing about this Mac game a couple of years ago, Halo. And I think when I was in college, I actually downloaded like a little 240p video off the internet in college, burnt it to a CDR, and was like, oh, this game looks amazing. And kind of just didn't put the two together that they were the same game ultimately.
Well, that's as close to the same game as you can call the real-time strategy Mac Halo game.
No, the Mac was first-person shooter.
I was about to say, I remember Barry showing me the video.
I thought it started off as the real-time strategy.
Nope.
Oh, God, no, they had changed it to the first-person shooter, and Microsoft literally approached me and went, we want this game. Here's some money.
The first public unveiling of Halo was by Steve Jobs at, I think, like Macworld in 1999, and it was showing how good the Mac score would be for gaming.
Yeah.
And then Microsoft went, we'll have that.
Halo is considered, as we know, the start to first-person shooters really taking that next step, isn't it?
It refined the control system for console-based shooters.
Yeah, it's really made a difference.
Absolutely. Up until this point, it was GoldenEye. As much as I'd love to say GoldenEye is amazing, as soon as Halo came along, GoldenEye was obsolete. Same with Perfect Dark.
Absolutely. Brilliant games, GoldenEye and Perfect Dark. We played many an hour of those games on multiplayer. Soon as you had those dual analog controls and the ability to aim and move at the same time and not have to awkwardly hold another button and look around, game
Not
changer.
only that, just moving and looking around, you always seem to have just the right amount of control over your aim, and there was just the
Yeah.
right amount of like auto aim. So if you say
Yeah.
you aimed at an elite and you start strafing round, you kind of snap to him very slightly. Not to the point where you notice it, but where it feels like you are like keeping sustained fire onto that enemy.
Yeah, they had a really good balance between it all, and it was just a shock to everyone when the game came out and they picked up and they're like, "Whoa, this is something different." And going through the corridors, well, actually, one of the things I realized at first was you can see your legs when you walk around.
Yeah,
Hey, that was not a given in games back then.
it's true. It really wasn't. I think the thing that really hit me with the original Halo is I don't think a first-person shooter had really done that kind of scale. When you first land on the ring and you walk into the first open area and you look around and you see the
that
big
second
Halo.
stage.
Yeah,
the massive waterfall, the ocean stretching along, as you say, the Halo looping all the way above and around you.
I can't remember any game of the time really giving you that same sense of awe and scale, and they're like, wow, this is a...
And the first time they drop that warthog off for you as well, you go through that cave and you come out the other side and it's just opened up and it's like, yeah, they're here, here, and here. Just do it however you want.
Yeah.
Like, playing back now, it's actually still very linear, but
at the time I didn't feel it.
The sense of freedom that you had, it was huge.
Well, because you could explore around and there was actually different drop pods dotted around with weapons and with different packs and that. If you didn't explore, I mean, I remember getting a sniper rifle very early getting onto that stage. Because
keeping hold of those sniper rifles was important.
The sniper rifles in that game were good. But in all fairness, we know nothing has anything compared to the Magnum.
Oh, yeah.
The pistol was brilliant.
That pistol was overpowered.
We'd keep hold of that for... We'd keep that for as long as we possibly could through story.
I would carry it around even if I had no ammo, just in case I found ammo for it.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey, it was a really good melee weapon.
The graphics on the game and everything, it was amazing. And once we'd completed it for like the 50th time, we had how much fun did we have getting warthogs to places that we shouldn't be?
Yeah, silent cartographer on top of it.
I remember doing it with this. Wraith.
On top of it, we sent it into outer space on silent cartographer.
That's true.
How many times can we kill each other underneath? So there's like this mound of grenades, and then one of us gets in it just as the grenades detonate, and it just sends you absolutely stratospheric. That's it, you're gone.
Oh yeah, well and truly.
10 minutes later, the other person's still looking up, going, "So you coming back down?"
I remember some of the maps you could get to the Banshees before the enemies, or you could...
you shot the rocket up, didn't you, in the canyon, and it fell down.
Yeah, just enough that it launched it forwards. And it was just stuff that was, quite cool, but I really enjoyed the stages where you could sneak around and kill everyone just by punching them without, making a sound.
Yeah, all the sleeping grunts.
Yeah, and also, I think it's one of those times where I can genuinely remember being actually surprised at a twist when the Flood came out.
Yeah.
And we were like,
just
what
about
the hell?
To say that.
What the hell are these things?
Yeah.
But to that point, you were playing the game, it's like, oh yeah, it's this alien race. And then suddenly there's this third faction, and they're completely different. Yeah, completely different from everything that you've fought up to that point.
And it's not even like it was early in the game. This was more than halfway through.
Yeah.
So it's like the entire gameplay loop had totally been laid out. This is the gameplay loop. This is how it is going forward. Yeah, it's a brilliant game. We know what we're doing. Why is the little pods attacking me? What's going on?
You came to that stage completely unaware, and then as you're going through, you're getting some little tidbits of what's going on, and then they're coming at you, and you are running. You're like, I'm not looking back. I am not looking back. And like, there was genuine fear. I don't use it, but I was just like, That's it. I'm gonna die. I'm not gonna win. That's it.
But there was all the subtle bits leading up to that point. Like, if you could see something in the distance but couldn't quite make it out, and you think, is that an elite in the distance as you're going through, like, the swamp? And then as you come to where you actually go into the complex, there's some grunts running out screaming. Your instinct is, oh, it's grunts, let's just take them out. It's only on subsequent playthroughs that you think, what were they running from? Obviously, it was the flood. And then as you descend deeper into the actual complex, you see dead elites, dead marines, gore all splashed up on the walls, and that music as well. It really did make you anxious, didn't it? Actually, just the music throughout the entire game was amazing.
The Halo music was just, to me, set the whole game. He did it perfect.
Marty O'Donnell, to this day, is still one of my favourite composers.
Yes.
And for good reason.
The music that he's done. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, okay, yeah, Destiny may have been a disappointing game overall, but the music in it is phenomenal. The music in Myst is phenomenal. Oni, the music in that is phenomenal.
Oh, yes.
There's so many Marty O'Donnell soundtracks that when I look back and think of it, you realise just how good he is.
And we haven't even talked about multiplayer either.
Oh, God, yeah. It didn't even have well, it kind of did if you knew how to fudge it, but it didn't have online officially.
Well, we didn't even need that, though, because this, again, the power of this one game didn't just make me go out and buy an Xbox. It made me go out and buy a second Xbox and a second copy of Halo. Sorry, a third copy of Halo so that I could give you a copy.
By the end of the generation, you have 3 Xboxes and 4 copies of Halo.
No, I had two Xbox consoles and 3 copies of Halo.
It's bonkers.
And I used to get my brother, who's like a good 5 years younger than me. And what it'd be is me and Phil would be sat in one room with one Xbox, Patch Lead going through to the other room where my brother and 3 of his mates were sat, all playing split screen, 6-player game, 2v4, and Blood Gulch and Sidewinder. Just get in the tank, dominate.
Felt sorry for him.
Yeah. Oh, I remember sitting on... I know you could hit the tank, but Blood Gulch, I remember driving to the back corner where it was a bit of a raised bit at the back.
Yeah.
Turning the tank can around and just shooting across the map.
I remember hiding in the little caves, along the edge, up on the ridge and that.
Basically, the ridge with the sniper rifles, quite an iconic one.
I just remember mine and Barry's perfectly synchronized dance of firing the pistol up to the point where we both run out of ammo, end up right in close combat, and hitting each other at the exact same time to get a double kill on each other.
No, I remember doing LAN games so much. We used to have, birthday parties would be a LAN game, so we'd bring the Xboxes, and the dining room would just be full of just cables and the monitors and all that malarkey. And it was the most fun I remember having with LAN games and those sorts of things.
Well, that was my first introduction to LAN games, playing games of Halo.
Oh, mine too.
It certainly changed a lot of things. I don't think shooters would be the same without Halo.
No.
Halo changed so much. I mean, you can almost see how quickly everything changed because all of a sudden, all first-person shooters were coming out. You only had 2 weapons.
I was just about to say that then.
Yeah. 2 weapons, 1 set of grenades. It all took the Halo setup.
Yeah.
Whereas previously it had been Unreal or it had been Doom, where you had all the guns available, you picked them up, and as you picked them up, you didn't reload them or anything. They were more arcadey.
Yeah, many games, even if you did reload, you would carry 10 different weapons with you, wouldn't you?
Exactly, yeah.
Whereas Halo's, you weren't just limited to the human weapons.
No.
Yeah.
You might be in a bind, run up, beat a elite with your empty weapon, pick up his weapon and just carry on the fight.
Yeah. The other big thing as well is just how balanced all the weapons were. Sure, some weapons were better than others.
Yeah, the Magnum.
Yeah, the Magnum.
Sorry, one shot in Hunters in the orange bits.
The Magnum was broken.
The first time you come against those Hunters, you're like, oh, what are these? You're in a little tiny corridor.
Yeah. Tank shells, rockets doing nothing.
You're just hammering them with the assault rifle. They're just coming at you. But then later on, once you get to know it a bit, you kind of go through the access like little access tunnel, come out behind them. One shot, as you say, into the weak part, down.
Yeah.
Move on.
But that's what I mean is the weapons were more balanced. If you had an assault rifle on the multiplayer and you was fighting somebody who had a plasma rifle, it could go either way. They all had the strengths and weaknesses. Whereas in older shooters, the chain gun was better than the machine gun.
Well, yeah. But that was another thing as well in multiplayer games like Deathmatch. You don't want to have, like, I don't know, the assault rifle and the shotgun. Because you'd be at a disadvantage to someone with a plasma pistol and assault rifle. So they could just pop your shield straight away with the plasma pistol and then finish you off really quickly with just a conventional weapon.
Yeah, absolutely.
One thing that I liked that they put into it was clambering in and out of vehicles. They just teleport inside it.
Just the little animations like that just give the game a lot of polish.
Yeah. It was definitely a very, very, very polished game.
The best game that you could hope to have launched within that generation.
Yeah. I mean, say what you like about Bungie. They do polish games very well.
Yeah.
They do.
I cannot think of a game that Bungie have released that hasn't been very highly polished even. They've had some questionable releases. They've had some questionable ideas on games in general. Destiny, we're looking at you. But they've always been very polished. They've always played very well.
Now, we have spoke about Halo for a little bit. So, should we go on to our final title for today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This title doesn't necessarily define the Xbox itself, but definitely define the experience of Xbox Live.
100%.
So, final title, Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2. Again, this is another game we absolutely rinsed on the Dreamcast.
Well, we rinsed it on the Dreamcast, we rinsed it on the GameCube, we rinsed it on the Xbox.
Yeah.
We've not really rinsed it on the PC.
No, not so much. This was my first Xbox title that I was really playing online through the most contrived way of playing on a 56k modem on an Xbox, which, if anyone knows, just wasn't actually supported. Poor me, didn't have broadband back then. The fact that I could chat with people it wasn't quite real time. I don't know if it was my connection or it was the game, but I always remember there was a few seconds delay on Phantasy Star Online.
But Phantasy Star, because it's not just that one game. Since then, it's obviously carried on throughout all the rest of the games, hasn't it, as a collective? But this one's not one that I've played particularly much myself. But I did play a bit around Barry's house, and I really enjoyed it. The series as a whole has been fantastic, but I know this has been the start for you two, wasn't it, into the games?
No.
Okay, never mind. I'll take it back. Just ignore what I said. I thought it was the start for you. I didn't realise you played the other ones before that.
We played the Dreamcast, but this was the first online title that I played, irrespective of the actual console or system, where the primary way to communicate with other players was through your voice.
Yeah.
And I remember I'd log on, I'd see the same players, you'd go into a lobby and you'd hear someone shout, "Hey, Barry, come join us, we're going to go and wreck this dragon for the 50th time." And although there wasn't an awful lot to the game, it did have a lot more content than the Dreamcast versions, with Episode 2 added on. Which at the time, some of the best water effects, especially that jungle stage.
Oh God,
that looked
that was
absolutely amazing at the time.
The beach as well.
Yeah. But there was definitely, I felt a lot more of a community. There wasn't actually a lot of official, setting up guilds or anything. But you'd always run into the same set of players.
Yeah. You'd trade your cards and you'd always invite the same people to your party and bits and go and take on the dragon.
Did you have to pay for a hunter's license on the Xbox as well?
I think you did.
So not only were we paying for Xbox Live, we were also paying separately. Was it $7.99 a month?
No, I think it was less than that. I think it was like £4 a month.
Was it? I seem to remember something. But we were paying for our hunter's license, which allowed us to play online with Phantasy Star as well.
Yeah, I think PSO2 was the first one to get rid of the payment to play online.
I remember playing...
The Dreamcast version didn't have license either. No.
Oh,
I remember playing on the 360 and that one was asking you to pay for a license.
Oh, yeah.
Phantasy Star Universe.
Phantasy Star Universe, yeah, that definitely did, yeah.
Yeah. But I believe you not really had an awful lot of experience with the original Phantasy Star, have you, Anthony? Phantasy Star
I
Online, sorry.
myself know. Phantasy Star Online.
We played a little bit once around here.
Yes, we played a bit around yours, and it's very different to Universe. Universe is the one I played the most first. Phantasy Star Online, I think it was episode 1 we played around yours, because that was very much, didn't you walk forward, and then also was it like tank controls, that one?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't like tank controls. However, you didn't have a good control of the camera. You could snap the camera back behind you. It weren't like modern games where your right analog stick controls the camera completely independently.
Yeah.
It was also a lot more... The only real way you can describe it is clunky in the way the combat worked.
You couldn't
it was
attack
very,
move,
very
could
rigid.
You? If you was attacking, you had to stay still.
Yes, you had to stay still.
Which is one thing I noticed very quickly when I played it. I was like, I can't move while I'm doing this.
Yeah, everyone knows the way you play Phantasy Star is light attack, heavy attack, step backwards.
Or, as I used to play, light attack, miss, hit the floor as I'm hit.
Yes.
Hang on, that still happens though.
Well,
yeah. The class I tended to go was not very accurate, to say the least.
Unlike further games in the series as well, you didn't necessarily get to create your character. You picked one of 12 classes, I think it was, in episode 1 and 2. I think it was 9 in the original. And each one had their own stat growth and perks, depending on the race. And you basically just picked them, picked a colour, picked a hairstyle, and how big and how
dimensions
muscular they looked. Yeah, and that was about it.
But the classes were all pretty unique, considering it was based on 3 classes.
Yeah. One thing I actually miss from later games is the casts had distinct advantages and disadvantages to picking them.
Yeah.
So
I think
they were a robotic race, so they were more susceptible to lightning. They'd get shocked a lot more easily, but they were immune to poison, and they could see traps.
I think the downside was a bit too harsh for them, though. That was the big problem.
I think the biggest downside is, although they could lay traps themselves, they couldn't use magic at all, any sort of magic.
As you guys know, casts was normally my one to go for because they're robots. You know what?
Yeah, you just would try to make a gun down, though, didn't you?
Yes, I did. And you know, it's one of those where I've gone on as a cast, and I just didn't feel like they were looked favourably on. I guess.
Is this in the newer games or
in the newer games, especially? But you know, when I chose it when we did Phantasy Star Online, because I'm sure I created a character on it, didn't I? Because we started from the start.
Yeah, we played through to the mines, didn't we?
Yeah, I chose a cast, went in as cast, and I was kind of like, didn't really feel like there was any benefit for being a cast. I benefit for what I was playing as.
They had a higher stat growth than the humans and the Newmans in the original game.
Weren't they more accurate? Tended to get more physical damage and more hit points than any other race.
But obviously at the expense of no techniques at all.
Yeah, which I do feel like it wasn't a big enough benefit.
No. Losing
techniques was just so harsh.
Yeah. If they had something comparable to replace, but laying traps, I never found it useful enough to use. You could only hold a smaller number of traps. There was a delay as you planted them, which if you were getting chased, you'd often get hit. And they didn't do an awful lot of damage. And it took inventory space. Yeah.
And space was a premium in that game.
Yeah, when it 30 items and that's your lot.
Yeah, and that's including your weapons and armor.
Didn't the traps like stun the enemies and stuff like that at all?
Yeah, so you could drop. I can't remember them all. There was definitely a fire trap that exploded.
Fire, confuse, paralysis, and poison.
So the benefits didn't outweigh the limitations it gave you.
God no.
Not in terms of skills. The fact that you could not get poisoned at all. So there was parts where it's like, oh, there's a lot of enemies spewing poison, but we need to hit that button on the other side. If you're a cast, just send them. They just stroll right through.
Were they immune to instant death? I think they might have been.
I don't know.
Not that many enemies did it, but it was annoying when it happened.
Those same plants could do it, couldn't they? Or was
the
it a rare
version of them.
variant of
Yeah,
them?
the rare variant.
Yeah,
of them,
they were fun. Was it Megid? It just used Megid on you.
Yeah, with a seemingly high chance to just literally one-shot you.
Yeah.
That was always fun.
But no, again, this game, it's a great game, whether you play it on the GameCube or the Xbox, or even the original Dreamcast versions. Again, it was the community, just being able to chat to other players. And you've got to remember as well, the original Xbox, you could put those voice filters on.
Yeah.
So if you had a robot voice, you could put on it and make you sound like a robot. Or if you were a bit creepy, like someone who's doing this podcast that we won't name, you could have a very small girl running round and change your voice to be a very unconvincing little anime sailor sort of
It didn't work. The voice changing didn't work that well.
Well, the thing is, though, at least for the original Phantasy Star Online, you had the valid excuse of you want that stat growth. Because each character, whether it was male, female, or class, would have a different stat growth.
Yeah, because I tended to go the Honeywell, which was the more caster-focused hunter.
Yeah, was it Humor I went?
Yeah, you went the Humor.
Human hunter.
Which was pretty much the all-rounder, wasn't it?
Yeah, he was like the boring class of the lot.
You had the ability to hit things. Literally.
And take a hit.
The Honeywell just could not hit anything. Its lowest stat was its accuracy, and yeah, that worked really well.
Well, we've come to the end of our first 10 games. Do you feel confident that these are a good representation of titles on the original Xbox?
I feel like they are. I know we haven't played every single game that's on this list, but I do feel like all 10 games did deserve a spot on there. And I hope, obviously, our listeners will have some of the same sort of thoughts that we had when we played the games, if they played them. Or if not, they're worth a try, they're worth a play.
Yeah, we'd love to hear what games other people think define the original Xbox to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And bear in mind, this is only part one of a two-part series, so we do have 10 more games to come.
And again, these games, they're not necessarily exclusives to the system or games that you immediately think of when you think of the Xbox. Some of them are just games that define the experience of playing on the Xbox.
And some of them are just downright brilliant games.
Well, I think all of them are downright brilliant games.
They are. But, if any of you out there have got different suggestions of games that you thought did define it, or at least if you want to try and guess what might be on our next list of 10 games, just let us know. Give us your opinion. What sort of games really made the Xbox, console stand out for yourselves.
And we'll give you a hint. Fusion Frenzy is not on our next 10.
No, Fusion Frenzy is on no one's top 10.
Well, that's it for this episode. If you'd like to see more information on anything mentioned during this podcast, you can visit us at retrogamingdads.co.uk. You can also support the podcast and get ad-free episodes at patreon.com/retrogamingdads. We've been the Retro Gaming Dads, and we'll see you next week.